The hospital buzzed with the quiet hum of life, a paradoxical stillness that often blanketed the early morning hours. In the maternity ward, cries of newborns echoed faintly, harmonizing with the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes on polished linoleum floors. For Dr. Evelyn Hart, this was home. The seasoned neonatologist had spent countless nights navigating the delicate balance between life and death. But tonight felt strangely heavy. She couldn't pinpoint why. She sipped her coffee in the break room, her pager resting silently on the table beside her. The storm outside was intensifying, the wind howling as rain lashed against the hospital windows. Evelyn glanced at the clock, 3:14 a.m. Most nights this hour passed quietly, but as her fingers wrapped around her mug, the shrill beep of her pager shattered the calm. "Code Blue, Delivery Room 4, the intercom blared. Her body tensed, the words slicing through her like ice. She bolted from her seat, her coffee forgotten as adrenaline took over. Evelyn's mind raced. Code Blue in the delivery room could mean anything. A mother hemorrhaging, a baby struggling for life. Either way, she knew the stakes were high. The hallway leading to Delivery Room 4 was alive with chaos. Nurses darted in and out, their faces tight with urgency. As Evelyn entered, the scene hit her like a physical blow. A young mother lay on the operating table, her face pale and drenched in sweat. Blood spattered the floor, and the obstetrician barked orders to the team. Evelyn's eyes immediately fell on the limp form of the newborn being transferred to a warmer. The baby, small, fragile, impossibly still, looked more like a porcelain doll than a living child. A nurse glanced up at Evelyn, her expression bleak. "No pulse," she said, her voice breaking. "We've been trying for 2 minutes." Evelyn's jaw tightened. 2 minutes felt like an eternity in situations like this. Every second without oxygen pushed the baby closer to irreversible damage, or death. But she didn't allow herself to dwell on the statistics. Not now. "Let's get to work," she said, her voice sharp and commanding. She approached the warmer, her hands steady despite the chaos around her. "Start compressions. I want oxygen flowing now." The nurses sprang into action, following her lead. Evelyn's mind focused solely on the lifeless body before her. She'd seen cases like this before, babies born without a pulse, their tiny lungs failing to draw breath. Some didn't make it, others defied the odds. But as she placed her hands on the newborn's chest and began compressions, a chilling thought crept into her mind. This one felt different. The baby's skin was ashen, almost translucent, and its tiny limbs hung limply like a marionette with its strings cut. Evelyn had witnessed countless critical births, but there was something uniquely fragile about this child. "Push the epinephrine," she ordered. A nurse nodded, injecting the medication into the baby's tiny vein. The seconds stretched into minutes, the rhythmic press of Evelyn's hands on the baby's chest becoming the only sound in the room. The young mother weakly turned her head toward the warmer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is my baby okay?" she asked, her eyes glassy with tears. Evelyn didn't answer. She couldn't. Not yet. Instead, she glanced at the heart monitor. Flatline. Her gut twisted, but she forced herself to focus. She wouldn't give up. Not on this child. The storm outside roared louder, the windows rattling as lightning illuminated the room for a brief moment. To Evelyn, it felt symbolic. A battle raging both inside and outside these walls. Her hands moved mechanically, her mind locked in a delicate dance between hope and despair. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The baby remained unresponsive. A younger doctor standing nearby leaned closer. "Dr. Hart," he whispered, his tone cautious. "Should we—" "No," Evelyn cut him off, her voice sharp. "We keep going." She couldn't afford doubt, not now. Her eyes burned with determination as she silently begged the baby to fight. "You're not done," she thought, her fingers pressing into the baby's tiny chest. "Come back to us." As the minutes ticked on, the room grew quieter. The tension was palpable, each staff member caught between hope and resignation. Evelyn refused to stop, her instincts screaming that this child wasn't gone, not yet. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she heard a voice, her late mother's words echoing from years ago. "Never give up, Evelyn, even when it seems impossible." Those words had carried her through medical school, through grueling nights in the ICU, through moments when she questioned whether she was cut out for this work, and now they carried her here, to the edge of despair, willing her to push forward. At 12 minutes, a faint flicker of movement caught her eye. A tiny twitch, barely perceptible, rippled through the baby's hand. Evelyn froze, her heart skipping a beat. "Did anyone see that?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of shock and hope. A nurse nodded, her expression mirroring Evelyn's disbelief. I think I saw it too." Evelyn's hands moved faster now, her energy renewed. "Keep going," she said, her voice firm. "We're not losing this baby." In that moment, she felt the weight of the storm outside, the fragility of life in her hands, and the unwavering power of hope. What had started as another night on call was quickly becoming a battle she would never forget. Evelyn's heart pounded as she continued compressions, her hands steady despite the weight of the moment. Every second felt like an eternity. 12 minutes without a pulse was staggering, nearly unthinkable. Yet, she had seen the twitch, a glimmer of something, a sign that the baby wasn't ready to give up. That single motion ignited her resolve. "Let's up the oxygen," she ordered, her voice firm but calm, "and keep the fluids running. We're not stopping." The room buzzed with quiet determination as the team worked. Evelyn knew what they were thinking, what everyone in the room was too afraid to say aloud. 12 minutes without a heartbeat wasn't just critical, it was catastrophic. Yet, Evelyn refused to let doubt cloud her judgment. She'd been here before, teetering on the edge of hope and despair, and she'd learned that sometimes miracles didn't follow the rules. The young mother, pale and trembling, tried to lift her head again. "Please, just tell me, is my baby alive?" Evelyn turned briefly to meet her gaze. "We're doing everything we can," she said, her tone resolute. She didn't make promises, but her eyes conveyed the unspoken vow she carried. She would fight for this baby until there was no fight left to give. The seconds dragged into minutes. 14. 15. Evelyn's arms burned from the relentless effort, but she didn't slow. The nurses exchanged worried glances, their expressions a mix of exhaustion and growing doubt. One of them, a seasoned nurse named Clara, hesitated before speaking. "Dr. Hart, should we call it?" Evelyn shot her a look that could cut through steel. "Not yet?" The storm outside roared louder, as though nature itself was raging against the hopelessness of the situation. Lightning illuminated the room once more, casting stark shadows that danced across the walls. To Evelyn, it felt as though the universe was daring her to give up. 18 minutes. The monitor still displayed a flat line, its unyielding beep a grim metronome of failure. Evelyn's chest tightened, but she pushed the feeling down. She had trained herself to separate emotions from action. Yet, this time, it was different. The mother's tears, the tiny hands twitch. There was something here worth fighting for. As the 19th minute ticked by, Evelyn called for another dose of epinephrine. "Let's push it, one more time." A younger doctor standing nearby shifted uncomfortably. "Dr. Hart," he began, his voice hesitant. "We're at 19 minutes. Even if we bring the baby back, the chances of brain damage are—" "I know the risks," Evelyn snapped, cutting him off. "But I've seen longer odds beaten. Keep going." The team followed her lead, their movements mechanical yet precise. The air was thick with tension, the only sound the relentless hum of medical equipment. Evelyn glanced at the heart monitor, silently pleading for a miracle. Then, at the 20-minute mark, the impossible happened. The monitor emitted a soft blip, faint, fragile, but unmistakable. "Wait," Evelyn said, her voice sharp. "Did anyone see that?" Clara leaned closer to the monitor, her eyes wide. I think we've got something. A pulse. It's faint, but it's there." The room erupted into controlled chaos as the team sprang into action. Evelyn felt her breath hitch, but she forced herself to focus. "Keep compressions going. Increase the oxygen. We need to stabilize." The faint pulse strengthened, its rhythm steadying as the minutes passed. The baby's tiny chest rose and fell weakly, but it was enough. Evelyn stepped back, her hands trembling as the weight of the moment hit her. The mother let out a choked sob, her hands clasped together as though in prayer. Is my baby alive?" Evelyn turned to her, her face softening. "Yes," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Your baby is alive." The young mother broke down, tears streaming down her face as relief washed over her. Evelyn took a step closer, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. "We're not out of the woods yet," she cautioned, "but your baby is fighting, and so are we." The next few hours were a blur of activity. The baby was transferred to the neonatal intensive care unit, where every breath, every heartbeat was carefully monitored. Evelyn stayed by the bedside, watching as the fragile newborn clung to life. She couldn't leave, not yet. Not until she was certain that the tiny flicker of life she had fought so hard to reignite would keep burning. Outside, the storm began to wane, the thunder rolling off into the distance. The world seemed to exhale with relief, mirroring the cautious hope that now filled the room. Evelyn sat by the incubator, her eyes fixed on the baby's tiny form. For the first time in hours, she allowed herself to breathe. "You did it," Clara said softly, approaching with a cup of coffee. "You brought that baby back." Evelyn shook her head. "We did it. And the baby fought harder than any of us." Clara smiled, her expression warm. "You're too modest. I've worked with you for years, Evelyn, and I've never seen anyone fight like you did tonight." Evelyn didn't respond. Her gaze remained on the newborn, her mind replaying every second of the battle they had just fought. She knew the odds they had beaten, the miracle they had witnessed. But she also knew the fight wasn't over. The baby's future was uncertain, and the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. As the first rays of dawn crept through the hospital windows, Evelyn stood and stretched. Her body ached, her mind was heavy, but her heart felt lighter. She turned to Clara. "Stay with the baby," she said. "I'm going to check on the mother." In the maternity ward, the young mother lay in her bed, her face still pale, but her eyes filled with hope. When Evelyn entered, she sat up, her voice trembling. "Thank you," she said. "You saved my baby's life." Evelyn approached the bed, her expression kind but serious. "Your baby is a fighter," she said. "But we're not done yet. The next few days will be critical." The mother nodded, her tears returning. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to," Evelyn replied gently. "Just focus on getting better for your baby. That's all that matters." As Evelyn left the room, she felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had done what many would call impossible, but she knew the truth. It wasn't just skill or determination that had brought the baby back. It was something deeper, a connection to the fragile, precious nature of life that she carried with her every day. Back in the NICU, Evelyn returned to the baby's bedside. The tiny chest rose and fell with each breath, a testament to the resilience of life. She placed a hand on the incubator, her voice barely above a whisper. "Welcome back, little one. You've got a big world waiting for you." 3 days later, the baby, nicknamed Miracle by the NICU staff, began showing remarkable improvement. Each breath, each steady heartbeat brought hope back into the room. Jessica, the young mother, stayed by the incubator, her whispered lullabies a quiet testament to her love and faith. On the 5th day, word of the baby's miraculous recovery spread, drawing media attention. Though Evelyn preferred to avoid the spotlight, she joined Jessica briefly to highlight the team effort and the baby's incredible will to live. When asked what kept her going, Evelyn simply said, "I believed in the baby's strength, and I wasn't ready to give up." 3 weeks later, Jessica walked out of the hospital, her healthy baby cradled in her arms. Evelyn watched from the doorway, a rare smile on her face. She whispered, "You're going to change the world, little one." That night, as Evelyn sat in her quiet office, she reflected on the fight, the storm, and the miracle she had witnessed. It wasn't just a victory, it was a reminder of why she chose this path. For every impossible case, she would carry the same hope, knowing that sometimes the impossible could be rewritten.